Hi Bashar, this is your friend Andra. A while back you told us that the Sasani people are akin to the honeybees that collect the energetic nectar from different civilizations and then spread the honey around through the universe. So I would really love it if you could give us the Sasani word for honeybee and anything else that you might feel inspired to share about this particular archetype. Thank you, I love you, and Naveo.
Well, we don't actually have honeybees on our planet. So we don't have a word for honeybee in that sense. However, there are animals that do form energetic webs, energetic connections to different forms of life on our planet. So we suppose that would be a relative equivalent. In our ancient language, they are called a type of seed that goes back to the idea of the original seed that formed the telepathic web between us all, and therefore they are referred to as Shavikwa, which means the light seed, the seed that connects us all in webs of light. So Shavikwa can be the closest analogy to the idea of that which connects all and spreads that vibration throughout a society, throughout an ecosystem, so to speak. So Shavikwa can be the closest analogy to the concept of a honeybee in that context.
Bashar, thank you so much for speaking with me today. You've just been a lighthouse to me in my life, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
It is our deep appreciation to co-create this interaction with you. What would you like to discuss this day?
So it's been my highest excitement to puzzle together the true story of Lilith. I feel there's some crucial insight I'm missing. You have said before that she may come through at some point to tell her own story. Is there any clue you can give me to better understand her and her significance?
One moment. Connections to nature are of prime importance to understand the story of Lilith. The idea of Lilith is someone who expresses an energy that is not dissimilar from the idea of the future hybrids that are connected very strongly to nature and who go through different levels of mastery to connect more strongly with all expressions of physical and non-physical reality. So Lilith is a story of self-empowerment, especially for the female energy expression on Earth. And so investigating and adopting anything that has to do with the expression of self-empowerment as an expression of your natural self will help you move forward in understanding the story of Lilith. Does that help you?
That is so brilliant. Thank you so much. I will need to take some time to digest that. That's just brilliant. Thank you.
All right.
So speaking of creation, 11 months ago, I co-created a beautiful daughter, Aluka, in a non-traditional way. I believe she has strong Sasani connections. Could you tell me something about her galactic connections, life theme, or soul contracts?
She is a strong teacher, does have hybrid connections, and connections to other extraterrestrial sources, especially Sirius and Pleiadian. In time, this being may be involved in some interactions with the hybrid children that will come to Earth to live among you eventually, among humanity. But for now, it is premature, still developing and still growing.
Amazing. Thank you. Speaking of the hybrid children, I have 7 hybrid children, and I know that there is a timeline where we could, meet in my lifetime. Are they sort of paused in childhood, or is there until they're integrated on Earth, or are they going to age in a way we understand it?
They will to some degree age, but they will not appear to age in the same way that humans do. The idea is that they are much longer lived, and the idea is that they don't necessarily deteriorate as they age, as they mature. So they may still seem very young even when they have achieved a greater age.
Yes, yes. And in terms of the potential of the timeline where we could have contact with them in a physical way, is that strengthening in possibility as we move through the window of open contact?
Yes, for those along that path, it is something that at the outside would probably not take longer than about 20 of your years at the outside.
Wow. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, my goodness. I recently returned from powerful vortex sites in Sedona and Chilca, Peru. I'm excited to see if I can map portals and vortexes around my home state of Victoria in Australia. Do you have any recommendations about vortexes in Victoria or Australia?
Well, obviously, an extremely powerful major vortex is in the idea of what you call Ayers Rock. Yes?
Yes, yes.
The Alice Springs area. But there is also a major electromagnetic vortex in the area known as Pine Gap.
Oh, I was just reading about that yesterday. How synchronous. Is that, is that similar to an Area 51 energy?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And there is, in fact, an underground base there.
Unreal. Oh, my goodness. So thank you for that information. That's a beautiful synchronicity. I am going to go there, Bashar.
Oh, all right. Have fun.
Yes, I will.
If you are sensitive to it, you may be able to actually physically feel the electromagnetic vibrations that are in that area in certain places, especially when you pass between large rock formations on the road.
Amazing. I mean, for some reason, I had felt that Australia didn't, was not such, as I returned from Sedona and Peru, I felt so invigorated by the vibrations there, and I felt a little bit disheartened when I came back to Australia, and I decided that wasn't a positive way to feel. So I want to be able to locate the high energy sites here, and Uluru, obviously, yes, I've been there. It's so fantastic. But Pine Gap, wow, I'm really interested to.
All right.
To go there. Thank you.
Have fun in your explorations.
I will.
You may actually also wish to actually take a device that can read electromagnetic energy with you.
So, okay, I will locate one of those devices. Absolutely. I wonder if I could take that with me to more sites as well. This is really exciting. Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
You can.
Yeah.
But you can calibrate it based on what you experience in Pine Gap.
Very good. So do you know, I can just research where to get one of those devices?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Bashar.
Yes. You're welcome.
I've got two more questions, but stop me if I'm going too much. Recently, I have been integrating my multidimensional selves. I've connected to counterparts in Orion, World War II, sort of ancient Roman Judea, and I'm starting to have strong impressions related to more recent military episodes in the Middle East, which seems odd to me because it's contemporary. Are these counterpart experiences, or is it a montage of media I have digested in my life?
There is some counterpart experience you are picking up on, yes.
Oh, okay.
It is a counterpart that is more strongly living out some of the ancient Orion connections.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, it was that last, it felt very aligned to the Orion story. Yeah.
Yes, there are many stories that are playing out on your planet at this time. Many different stories, a true melting pot of different stories from different directions, all using the Earth cycle vibration to attempt to change the ending of those stories in a more positive way. But first going through great darkness.
How extraordinary. I mean, I do feel as I move through time that I'm much more able to viscerally connect with the experiences and the lessons of my counterparts. And that is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yes, and they from you, and they from you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, how extraordinary. Reality is
So
just...
the more you are yourself, the more you help them have something to draw upon to help them as well.
Yes, and I guess what is the appropriate amount of focus? I mean, I don't want to get lost in that world because
Follow
obviously
the formula.
Formula, yes, correct. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
And your final question?
My final question, I feel that I have for many years been weaving together a tapestry about the divine feminine so I can write about it. I cannot tell anymore if I'm fixated on this idea because I've held it for so long or whether I should keep pursuing this path of writing. Help me out, Bashar.
Is it representative of your passion?
It is. I'm very passionate about that story.
Then doesn't that tell you to keep going?
It does. I knew as soon as I asked that question, I shouldn't have asked it.
It's all right for you to ask it, but thank you for allowing it to be obvious.
Yes, yeah. Well, I just love you so, so much. I can't even put it into words, Bashar. Thank you so much for your time.
It's all right. You may put it into actions.
Yes, I will do. Absolutely.
All right. Our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo.
Aveo. Aveo.
Hello Bashar, my name is Sylvie. I have two questions regarding mostly the cyclic organization of the Earth, especially in relation to my own female cycle. Before puberty, I could see things very positively, such as the death of my grandfather and the separation of my parents. But since I've become more cyclically organized, my life has been more like a roller coaster. So how can I live my femininity fully without experiencing challenging emotions and pain, for example, during the bleeding? And why do we go through puberty and the cycles? And what do they mean structurally, like in an archetypical way? Thank you so much for answering. Much love. Bye.
Physical reality, especially in the Earth system, is a reality of cycles and a reality of challenges. You have, as a spirit, recognized that you have the strength to face these challenges and were willing to face them when you chose to incarnate. The idea is to transform them in positive ways, to use them in positive ways, and sometimes to even eliminate them from needing to be experienced. But remember that if you experience them in a painful way, that is resistance to the experience, rather than using the experience to flow in a positive direction. Find ways to define these challenges in positive ways, how they can benefit you energetically, how there can be lessons learned from them that will allow you to transform other situations in your life, to use the challenges you go through in other areas of your life, to know that you can face these challenges and transform them in more positive ways. So you can use these smaller challenges to allow yourself to overcome bigger challenges and transform them in positive ways. It's like a stepping stone to something bigger.
I'm very excited to ask you a fun question. So many years ago, I asked you about an entity that you gave the name Sadie Rose, and I began seeing Sadie Rose trucks. So Sadie Rose baking trucks. And you said, when I see these trucks, it was a state that I was in that allowed me to communicate with this entity. And
Yes.
recently, I saw two trucks at once on my way to go meet a gentleman who just happens to have the same last name as Rose, and that felt very synchronous. And I wanted to see if you had any fun additional information to add to that.
What was your visit with this gentleman about?
He's a guy I'm dating.
All right. Well, then you are baking a new relationship.
I am indeed. I am indeed. Anything else?
How high do you want to turn up the temperature on your baked goods?
As hot as we can.
All right. Then we would suggest that you go for it, as you say, without any particular insistence on what the relationship should be. Let it show you what it is. Don't impose any societal structure on the idea of what you think it's supposed to look like.
I love that.
Just enjoy it for what it is.
That's perfect. That sounds so fun. Thank you very much. And one more thing I'd like to just mention. My excitement, I feel my reality is extremely malleable lately, especially when I'm in the water with the whales and the dolphins. And recently I've had an experience with the orca that was quite exciting. And I just wanted to ask you if there's an amazing experience where I felt deeply respected by them. It felt very, very a strong sense of reverence from them to me. And I wanted to ask you if you had anything to add about that.
Well, as we have said, an analogy would be that the orcas are the samurai of the sea. And therefore, it's all about the idea of that level of respect, about truth to self, about being authentic in every level of your life.
Ooh, I love that. That word has been so resonant for me lately, authenticity. It's been a beautiful experience to be fully myself and authentic in the most amazing ways. So thank you for that. That's all I have. Thank you, Bashar.
All right. We thank you.
Good day.
Aveo.
Good morning, Bashar. My name is Shaylin Jennings. So my question is, what aspects of my life should I be focusing on over the next 6 to 12 months that are for my highest good, that will serve my soul's purpose, my heart's desires, the greater good of us all, of the greater energy, the universe? And secondly, Bashar, have you visited me? I have been on my channeling journey, practicing, trying to focus in and bring in higher level energies of light and love. And I heard the name Bashar. Like, this was literally like maybe 2 to 3 days ago. So have you visited me, Bashar? I'm not tripping, right? Thank you. Look forward to hearing from you. Bye.
Following the formula, of course, acting on your passion is the answer. And again, if you don't know what that may mean, then start small with everyday things. This is simply the idea of your, shall we say, blueprint informing you that you had set up this connection today. So you got in a sense, precursor of this conversation. You felt the leading edge of the wave of this connection 3 days before it actually happened. Because you are sensitive to energies and allowed yourself to pick up on the idea of making this connection this day. So you are expanding your senses and increasing your sensitivity to pick up on things that have not yet actually manifested physically, because everything exists in spirit first, as above, so below. But sometimes the below has a time lag to it, and you will pick up on the energy in the non-physical reality of something like this conversation before it actually manifests in physical reality. So no, you are not tripping, as you say. You are picking up on our energy as we are having this conversation today, but did so 3 days earlier.
And what is the best approach to the art of acting in order to achieve the greatest performance? Please explain, if it has to do with channeling, which it may not, is the actor channeling a person that is simultaneously existing in a parallel universe, or is the actor creating something new? Perhaps even a completely different and new person new in regards to this plane that we know time to exist in?
We have to be cautious about the idea of your terminology when you say completely new. There may be an infinite number of combinations that are completely probable and possible for someone to bring through in a form of channeling, which is what the best acting actually is, in tapping into parallel reality versions that can be representative of the different characters, in the sense that you may be combining from different parallel realities and presenting a new character in that sense, in the new combination of tapping into different parallel realities to create that character. You could say, in a sense, that the character is new, a new expression, one of the expansions of the idea of how creation expands, because it's a new relationship, it's a new perspective, it's a new experience. But it's made out of a combination of things that already exist. And in that sense is not completely new. But it can be a new expression in the way that you understand that term. Acting on the level that you're talking about is channeling, although channeling is not acting.
Okay. And did Atlanteans live much longer than we do now? For example, the Sumerian texts refer to kings that reigned for many thousands of years.
Well, those are not Atlanteans, although Atlanteans did live longer in general. 120, 150 years is not uncommon for the Atlantean biotype. The Sumerian king lists have more to do with the idea of the Anunnaki and other extraterrestrial forms that did have, in fact, multi-millennial lives.
And were Atlantean aircraft balloon oriented, or did they use crystals to levitate or propel air, or by land or by sea?
It was kind of an odd combination of both in many cases. They did have lighter than air vehicles that were aided and assisted in their propulsion by the idea of vibrational means. So you could say, in a sense, that they used some of the science of levitation to move the lighter than aircraft around most efficiently.
And did the dinosaurs look the way we've interpreted them from fossils, or were they all furry or feathery or fluffy and just look like big animals and not terrifying lizards?
Well, again, some of them may have presented what to you would still be very scary appearances, regardless of the fact as to whether they had feathers and fluff, because they were still large animals, and many of them were carnivorous and predatory. So the idea is, yes, you are beginning to learn, as many of your scientists know, that many of them did begin to sprout the idea of feathers. Hence, those branches evolving into what you now have as birds. So the idea is still, much of what you understand now in your modern times is relatively accurate, though you still have a lot to discover about them. So even though some of them may have had fluff and feathers, they still were formidable animals.
Okay, and can you talk about our moon and the origins of how it was created and came to be?
Your scientists are relatively accurate in the idea that the early Earth, when forming, was struck by another body in your solar system, and the moon, in that sense, was material that was broken off in the impact, and thus reformed as the moon around your planet in a natural way. Now, the moon is natural and formed that way, but it has been slightly altered since then, because there are extraterrestrial bases on the moon and devices on the moon that have placed it exactly and precisely into the orbit it now occupies to help balance out your planetary system in a variety of ways. So it's not that the moon itself is artificial, but it has been artificially augmented to some degree. But originally it is a natural body that was formed in the early solar system.
Was it in that sense moved so that it would be this exact size, like for eclipses and things like that?
Yes. Now, we understand that the moon is moving and has been closer to your planet in the past, and it is still moving slightly away. Nevertheless, certain adjustments have been made so that at the timing that humanity would exist and at the timing it would be relevant for you, the size of the moon being where it is in position relative to the sun and your Earth is not an accident.
So are there more advanced ET civilizations that know how to move planets in a sense and move things like the moon?
Absolutely. There are civilizations we have encountered that have the power to move stars.
And are they physical? Or does that require being a non-physical consciousness to comprehend that?
It does not require being a non-physical consciousness, but it does require a connection to non-physical consciousness to understand it in a very strong way.
Is it on the level of beings such as yourself, or would it be of beings that are even more advanced and higher frequency than you?
We do have the beginnings of the ability to do what we just said. But there are beings that are much more advanced that can do it very easily.
And does that also fall under the idea of terraforming planets?
Well, yes, that can be done, as was done for us. But terraforming a planet is not quite the same thing as moving a star for a variety of reasons.
Yes. And isn't there a thing with terraforming that it's not necessarily the idea that what is involved in terraforming a planet for species such as yourself? How did they terraform your planet?
It requires molecular adjustments on many different levels and fine-tuning with very advanced technology for the purpose of creating the atmosphere and environment that would be conducive to the expression of life planned to live on the planet. We cannot go into technical detail at this time. It is too large of a subject.
Okay.
But suffice to say, it involves an extremely advanced form of nanotechnological manipulation.
Oh, well, just to take it a little further, did they bring animals to your planet, or was it more the idea that they evolved?
Some were adjusted genetically and allowed to evolve. Some were brought to the planet and mixed into the ecosystem where compatible. But that's not the idea of physically terraforming a planet. That happens later when the planet has been terraformed and is ready to receive the idea of life.
So even higher beings are into gardening, is what you're telling us?
On scales so vast, it would try your imagination.
Wow.
There are literally gardens of stars, gardens of solar systems.
Wow. See, there's always more. Consciousness has that one thing going for it. Doesn't matter how long you exist. There's always more.
Yes. Though it is not something that we ourselves can do, there are also artistic arrangements, if you will, gardens of multiple dimensions. We have heard of this from those that have experienced it.
So at some level, this becomes one amazing amusement park, in a sense.
If you wish to look at it that way, it becomes one expression of beauty.
Wow.
All right, I'll say good day. This transmission we have titled 1 Minute to Midnight. Now, your society has coined this phrase in accordance with what it calls a doomsday clock, meaning how close are you in the entire global interactions going on your planet to the concept of self-destruction. How close are you to self-annihilation? counting down the idea of an hour before midnight, they have said that you are now 1 minute to midnight, and maybe even less than that. Looking at all of the turmoil going on your world, and the idea that you are extremely close to a dangerous level of interaction that could lead to self-annihilation of the human race. But we would like to take that concept of 1 minute to midnight and reframe it in a different context to the idea now of those who are pursuing the expansion of consciousness, pursuing the idea of their spirituality and the adoption of more of who they are in the expression of their day-to-day lives, and reframe the concept as how close you are to open contact for those who are walking that path. So you are 1 minute to midnight, very close. At the stroke of midnight, that represents the idea of the moment when open contact truly begins. And so you are 1 minute away. Now, this clock still moves a little bit slowly, for there will be upcoming transmissions when we will say you are 30 seconds to midnight, 15 seconds to midnight, and then a countdown to the idea of contact. But right now, for those who are walking the path, for those who are exploring their spirituality, for those who are willing to be more of who they truly are, it is 1 minute to midnight. So, it is 1 minute to midnight, children. No time to be asleep in bed. Time to wake up. Time to move ahead. It is 1 minute to midnight, children. So be prepared. It is time for you to move forward. Time that you begin to care about all the things that surround you, about your connection to nature, about the idea of nurture, so that you can be who you are in the world, so that you can connect more strongly to those around you, so that you can be of service to the earth, to humanity, to nature, to the stars. It is 1 minute to midnight. Contact is close at hand. Allow yourselves to connect to the air, to the sea, to the land. It is 1 minute to midnight, children. Allow yourselves to know that if you are willing to be who you are, you don't have far to go. To allow yourselves to interact with the beings that surround you all the time, that have been willing to assist you, willing to engage with you, if you would but find the time. It is 1 minute to midnight, children. Listen closely to what we say. The idea of spirit is not so far away. The idea of contact is not so far away. The idea of a new world is not so far away. It is 1 minute to midnight, children. Time to awaken. Time to open your eyes. Time to remove. Time to remove. Time to remove the fears that you disguise. So, it is important now at this time that you truly expand and accelerate your experience of your connection, your experience of spirit, your experiences of synchronicity. Let them flow. Let them flow. Let them come to you. Let your core frequency attract what you need. Remove all impediments that are in the way, all the fear-based belief systems, all the negative belief systems, all the things that are simply no longer relevant for you. Let them go. Let them dissipate. Let them evaporate. Let them be understood as choices you have made in the past that simply make no sense for you to make in the present and simply will not be experienced in what you call your future. Allow yourself to clearly connect from your heart, your mind, your spirit, your soul. Allow yourself to be genuine and authentic and true to who you really are and to each other. Clear in your meaning and communication. Clear in your intentions. Clear in your service to others. Be active on your passion. Be active in the formula and understand it clearly. For there is not much time left, for it is 1 minute to midnight, children. It is time to wake up. In the new world, in the new earth, time to shift more and more every day in every way to new versions of the world that coexist simultaneously. Allow yourself to begin to truly let in the new world. Get used to the idea of how magical and miraculous the new world can be. Allow your experience to increase in synchronicity. For everything is connected. Everything is an expression of one. It's 1 minute to midnight, children. Time to have some fun. So set your watches, set your hearts, and set your minds to this new timing. It's 1 minute to midnight. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. We thank you for allowing us to share this with you in your October month, a time when you open your minds to the idea that the spirit world is all around you, that the barriers and the veils are thinnest, that you can interact with those who have passed on as a matter of course, that all the relationships still exist and always will. It's 1 minute to midnight. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. We thank you for allowing us to share this with you this day. Get into the spirit of the season in all the ways that you can take that meaning. And in return for the gift you are giving us in engaging with you, I ask now, how may we continue to be of service? Please begin with your dialogues and questions if you wish.
So the next question is about open contact, disinformation, and suppression.
Yes.
And basically the person is saying, many of us are fully aware of the prior contact between ET civilizations and our government that have been suppressed for decades. Any higher knowledge or technology the government acquired has been kept hidden from the public while they promote fear-based propaganda and disinformation to the citizens. Can you explain to us how this will be avoided during the period of open contact? What should, and this would be This person is putting between 2026 and 2027. What should we expect open contact to look like, and will it take place only in the United States, or will this happen globally?
Globally, of course. Why would it be limited to one country? The idea, of course, is to think about what you're saying. You have just told us that you know that certain factions are hiding the information. Well, how do you know that? Therefore, it's not really a secret, is it? So the idea, as we have often said, is this biggest secret that everyone knows. So those days are almost over. And of course, with open contact, would you not assume that if it's open contact, the public would be very aware of our existence? Otherwise, it wouldn't be open contact. Therefore, being completely aware of our existence because we openly show ourselves to you, wouldn't that be a prevention for someone being able to hide the information? So think about it logically. You already know a lot of this because information has leaked out, and therefore, when open contact occurs, it will be something that will be undeniable. No one will be able to suppress it because, shall we say it in your language, will be very much in your face. So the idea is, again, it will start slowly, bit at a time, to help you adapt, to help you get used to the idea of our presence, our energy, and to help you make adjustments and changes in your society. Those, of course, that are willing to go in that direction and shift to that reality, as always. But then you'll wind up on the version of Earth where it's a given that this is happening. There will be those, again, that will wind up on a different version where no open contact will occur. This is simply one of the side effects of the splitting prism of going into different versions of parallel reality Earths. But those that are open to it, information will be revealed in that reality. Information will be known in the same way that you know of the information you're saying is supposed to be so secret. So clearly, the fact that you're even able to ask that question or make that statement is an indication that that information is coming to light, or you wouldn't know about it at all. There would be no question or statement to make. So it's coming to the surface. You're proof of that by asking that question and making that statement. And it will become stronger in the years to come.
Okay. And regarding the Interstellar Alliance social experiment, this individual is saying, while I take part in it, is it okay for me to get politically involved in participating in public social gatherings where we as a group are asking our political leaders to stop sending weapons to the war in Ukraine, or to cancel agreements that my country has signed to support war in any way, shape, or form other than diplomatically agreeing to peace?
Yes, it's okay. Just do it in a loving and kind way. Don't do it in any way, shape, or form that would be based on fear or negativity or any kind of force. Just do it in a loving way as a request that this is what you prefer, a statement that this is what you prefer. So simply that.
Okay. And this question is, does the Interstellar Alliance operate similarly to Star Trek in the sense that there are many ET races in cosmopolitan ships exploring the universe?
Well, generally, yes. There are some differences. We're not sure what you mean by cosmopolitan ships. If you mean city ships, yes, that exists. So, yes, there are similarities. There are differences, of course, because while Star Trek overall is representative of your intuitive connection to the existence of the Interstellar Alliance and expressed through your creative art forms, there of course are some differences that exist out here from the idea that what you're presenting to yourselves is a science fiction story. So there are many similarities and there are many differences. But overall, there's a lot of similarity.
And this person is asking, how can we overcome the fear of negative alien entities? If we are open to contact, Does that also put us at risk of negative encounters?
No. The first thing you have to understand is that the way to get over it is to realize, if you want to, that there are no negative extraterrestrials involved or engaged with your planet at this time. So, those of us that are engaged with your world and the evolution of humanity and what's going on your planet at this time, create a kind of bubble reality that is of a frequency where negative beings simply find that they are unable to perceive what's happening, unable to reach you. So even though there may be stories on your planet that sound very scary and fear-inducing, the literal truth is there are no negative entities engaged with humanity on your planet at this time. Only the stories that you make up because of the fears that come up within you, within humans, because of your exposure to higher frequencies that you simply may not yet be able to tolerate without going into survival panic mode. So it distorts the experiences in a way that creates a lot of scary stories, but the actuality is there are no negative extraterrestrial entities interacting with your planet at this time. So if you're willing to understand that, then you can get over the idea of being afraid that you will attract negative extraterrestrial entities through open contact. It simply will not occur.
Do you believe achieving contact is mainly vibration-based? What is the best way to align with that frequency?
Follow the formula. Yes, of course it's vibration-based. It's based on several different things. But it's also based not only on your life path, your soul's themes, but yes, physically, it's based on the idea of the upliftment of humanity vibrationally, raising your frequency to be able to meet us halfway, so to speak. So, yes.
And some of us imagine open contact involving a massive number of UFO ships appearing. However, this person had a dream that it will be different, more like floating orbs descending, carrying knowledge that could be understood telepathically while in their presence. Can you give us a hint on how that would be?
We will discuss this in the upcoming Sedona transmissions. Yes, you are right. It will not right away be hundreds and hundreds of ships because, as you say, that would freak many people out. So it will be a slow process, and what you have described to some degree is a part of it. But we will give you more specifics in the upcoming Sedona transmissions.
Are there any grays that are positively assisting us at this time? And also, if it is true that some grays are assisting us, how are they recognizable to us?
All grays are assisting you. There are no negative entities dealing with you at this time in that way.
Well, as your famous quote goes, circumstances does not create the state of being. State of being is what creates circumstances.
Yes.
I believe it to be true, but this makes me wonder how the Greys were able to create their own reality. Since the Greys gave up emotionality, how were they able to create their reality? I wonder how they were able to do this without the state of being component, let alone their technology to tunnel into other realities.
State of being does not necessarily mean primarily that it has to contain the idea of what you recognize as emotion. A hive mind mentality, a hive mind intention, hive mind focus is an extremely magnified state of being. And it is that intention and that focus of the hive mentality that they have created, even in giving up most of their emotionality, that allows them to create the reality that they are experiencing. So emotionality is not necessarily always a primary component as long as the focus and the intention supersedes it.
Speaking of the hive mentality, from a shamanic standpoint, if you were to tune into bees, what are some of the things they could help us understand about the hive mentality?
You have to look at it holistically. Again, though you experience it in linear space-time as I'm connected to this, from the hive mind, it is I am this. It's more like the idea of looking at yourself as a drop in the ocean. You understand that you can be a drop, but you understand that there really isn't a lot of differentiation between the drop and the rest of the water in the ocean. So it's something that's a more all-encompassing sense, an all-encompassing perspective. It's not that you belong to the hive, it's that you as an individual are the hive, and every individual in it sees themselves as the hive. That's why the focus and the intention and the orchestration and coordination are so automatic, and why they can act so synchronistically together, because each of them sees themselves as the hive. They have an intent, they have a focus that is shared completely by every single individual aspect of the hive, as if each individual is the hive and the only one having the intent and the focus to accomplish something.
That sounds very similar to the idea of when a human being raises their vibration in certain circumstances and actually can experience the sense of being of the collective, of that there's all these people in the collective, all these consciousnesses in the collective, but you can identify individual, you can sense they're all individual, but yet it's all one big collective consciousness experience.
Yes. Again, it is another form of absolute synchronism.
So that state of being where you're part of the collective, that would be, in a sense, very equivalent to the idea of being part of or experiencing the hive mind.
Yes. It's experiencing pure synchronicity. Everything is in lockstep. It is the intentional focus, the orchestration. It brings about the orchestration that creates everything to be exactly where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, in perfect timing. It's another way of doing it. We experience it with emotionality, but the Greys did not. But that wasn't necessary for the intention that they created. They created the reality that they needed to allow them to create the hybridization program that would allow their civilization to continue, and which you can take advantage of to allow your civilization to go in a different path than what the Greys took that destroyed their world. So that's the beneficial side effect of that harmonic, of that orchestration, is that you get to take advantage of what they're doing to preserve their own civilization, their own culture, by creating us hybrids. You get to take advantage of it so that you can decide that you have more options than they themselves saw that they had, that led them down the path of destruction, where they poisoned their version of Earth.
Great. This person is curious about the society on your home planet. What is the average lifespan of the Sasani people? Start with that.
About 300 of your years, as you understand time. But that's an average. There are some that might leave sooner. There are some that are much, much older, depending upon their soul's path and what it is they need to achieve. Again, as reference, my own father, still physically alive after 1,000 years.
And the next question this questioner is asking is, do you mate for life, or do your people explore multiple relationship dynamics in the same way that we do?
We don't explore them in the same way you do. We simply receive whatever is happening as what is supposed to be happening at that moment, since everyone is telepathically bonded and everyone understands the idea of consensus, and that if you are attracted to 1, 2, 3 people in different ways for different purposes, then we let it play out. There are no assumptions, impositions, or expectations on how relationships should be. We simply let the relationships serve the purposes that they come together to serve.
And are there any limitations on how many offspring you create?
Any limitations would simply be a part of the synchronicity as to what agreements have been made in spirit as to what serves the collective best.
And finally, you mentioned that your planet Essassani is in the general area of Orion, but which star does your planet orbit? Have we already identified it, meaning can we see it from here?
No, you cannot. We are in a parallel reality. Our reality is invisible to you unless you actually make a vibrational shift into our reality. And what we have said is that our star system is in the direction of the Orion constellation. It's not part of that constellation, but our system is not visible to you. No stars in our reality are visible to you. There might be some stars that we share, in a sense. In other words, we have versions of those stars in our reality that you have in your reality. But the idea is that we are invisible to one another unless we make a shift into the different parallel realities. So we are 500 light years in the direction of the Orion constellation that you're familiar with. But we are not part of the Orion constellation as you would understand it.
And do the Yael have a ship over Los Angeles? And are they connected to Dolphin, Whale, Sirius Energy?
Yes, they are, and yes, they do, and they have ships over many cities.
Okay, and this question is, you want to tell us any more about that?
No, thank you.
Okay. What is the color of hybrid blood and also of Yael blood?
Red. Remember, we are another version of human.
Okay, and is astrology legitimate? Does our birth chart have anything to do with our personalities, temperaments, moods, and what happens to us, etc.?
Again, like anything, these are permission slips that reflect what you chose when you decided to incarnate, what you froze into your pattern that allows you to experience the unfoldment of your life path. So those that are sensitive enough to use that permission slip to read it are simply telling you what the reflection of your birth time astrologically reflects to what you chose prior to incarnation to experience. So it depends on the sensitivity of the reader to read accurately the ideas that are frozen in that matrix that are representative of what you chose to freeze as your life path and can be read by many different people in many different ways with many different permission slips. So again, remember, nothing controls you except that it defines the hallway you chose to walk down, the life path, and the challenges you chose to experience. So sensitive people can read that to an extent, but you still have free will within that in terms of how you might walk down that hallway that you chose with your free will from spirit to walk down in this life. So it's a reflection. It's not a control. It's a defining guideline to the idea of your path in this life as a reflection of it.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yes.
And how can this person wants to know how they can know if they have hybrid children without you telling them specifically?
Sometimes many people will have dreams of interacting with children that seem a little bit different than human children. So sometimes that's one way you can tell. Now, almost anyone who's interacting with us is in some way, shape, or form part of the hybridization program, whether they actually have genetics in the hybrid children or not. So being a part of the hybridization program doesn't necessarily always mean you actually have hybrid children. But it may be that your energy is being used, your template is being used to help grow the hybrid children, or you're teaching them things about living on Earth that they need to know when they eventually come to live among you on Earth in the years to come. But the idea is that a lot of individuals have hybrid children, or their genetics have been used in the creation of the hybrid children, or their energy patterns have been used in the creation of the hybrid children, like a template in a sense. So it doesn't really matter whether you literally have genetics in the hybrid children. Usually you're still involved if you have found ways to talk to us at all. It's very rare that people who find us and speak with us or ask us a question aren't in some way a part of the hybridization program, whether they have children or not.
And in determining how many children somebody has, are there certain percentages that help identify that idea?
Well, again, in some ways, colloquially, you can consider a hybrid child to be, quote unquote, your child if they contain at least 15 to 20% of your DNA. And that usually means there's about maybe 15, 17, maybe up to 23 or 25 hybrid children that might have that much of your DNA in them. But DNA is spread among hundreds, if not thousands, of hybrid children. So are they yours if they have even 1% of your DNA? That's up to you to decide. They might have connections with you in other ways for different purposes, depending upon their life path, that would supersede the idea of how much genetics they actually contain anyway. They might be part of your soul family. They might have a life path that needs to connect strongly to you, even if they have very little of your genetics within their makeup. So it just depends on several factors as to how closely bonded you might be with a hybrid child. It's not...
Back in 2020, you mentioned the importance of that election and how the result catapulted us to a more positive timeline. With the upcoming election in the fall of 2024, do you perceive the results affecting open contact? I understand your civilization will not talk about our politics. I just want to clarify if the election will affect how and when we meet our ET family.
All right. Now we are allowed to say this about that. Understand we have for some time been talking about the idea of the splitting realities, the splitting prism. For the sake of simplicity, for now, let us take what many of you might call the Dolores Cannon approach and say that instead of thinking about it as an infinite number of parallel reality Earths, you can, shall we say, render it down to the idea of two, the new Earth, the old Earth, that are splitting apart, going in different directions. And the people that shift with them, then going in those different directions. You could say going in the new direction, shifting to the new Earth, going in the old direction, remaining on the old Earth, so to speak. But it's still a shift. So the idea is, look at what's happening in the splits that you are experiencing now in your politics. Specifically, look at the idea of people saying, this person won, no, this person won. Which is true? Both are true, because they're both reflective of two completely different Earths. That's how you're starting to see the split. Right now, of course, you're sharing a reality. You're creating a reality that seems like a shared reality. And therefore, you can still see each other saying, no, it's this way, no, it's that way. Eventually, you will not see each other. You will not experience each other. But right now, that should be your first clue. The degree to which each side, each group, is saying, no, 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 this is the winner. No, 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 this is the winner, should be your first clue that you're actually experiencing the beginnings of the splitting into different realities. So, those that are moving in the direction of what, again, euphemistically we will refer to as the new Earth, will experience one thing. Those that are shifting in the direction of continuing with the old Earth will eventually experience something else, even to the point, eventually, literally, of there being two White Houses in your country, two government bodies in each place on your planet, where one person wins this one and one person wins that one. So you have to start understanding this is different realities that you're actually beginning to experience. Even though it may seem to be very chaotic right now and everyone arguing about what is real, They're both real, but it's just the very beginnings of the splittings into those very different and very real realities that will become farther and farther and farther apart. And the people going in those different directions experiencing very, very different Earths eventually. So, allow yourself to simply stay in the vibration that you prefer, and you will continue to navigate and continue to shift and continue to experience the result of that, one of which will lead to open contact and one of which may not. Now again, anything in between does exist, for there are multiple variations and versions of parallel reality Earths. But again, for simplicity, just to use the extreme examples now to illustrate the point, one will experience the idea of open contact because that means it's about connection and expansion, love, connection, kindness. And the other, based in fear, negativity, will experience something quite different. I'm not going to describe that right now. But they will not experience open contact in the way we've been describing and in the way we will participate in it with you. That is the answer to the question. That is all we are allowed to say. So think about that and understand what you're seeing as the beginnings of that split on your planet.
Okay, and this person is saying, if I have a worry about the coming election and how it's going to turn out,
I have said what we need to say about this subject.
Okay.
This is the end of the conversation.
About that.
Because that's
Okay.
the most important thing to leave all of you with, is the understanding of what you're seeing, why you're seeing it, and what's actually happening. You are literally seeing the beginnings of the splitting into different realities where each side really truly sees that their outcome is the real outcome. That's why you're seeing what appears to be a dichotomy. And that is sufficient unto this day.
Okay.
So,
Can you tell us a little bit about why there is such a focus on gender identity and transgender going on right now?
because spirit is everything and nothing, and it is a way of illustrating that spirit can be anything. And it is the idea of opening up humanity to the understanding of your true existence as a spirit that contains any variation and every variation beyond even what you're experiencing on your planet. But it's a symbol to stop limiting yourself and defining yourself and boxing yourself in to a very rigid understanding of what it means to be a human. Because what it means to be a human is also what it means to be a spirit that is expansive and inclusive instead of exclusive.
And you have said things in our artistic media are representative of changes in our collective consciousness.
Yes.
There have been a recent reemergence in fascination with dragons. The most recent manifestation being a show called The House of the Dragon. Why is this?
Again, dragons are a symbolic projection of extra-dimensional beings that's connecting you to an ancient source of knowledge and wisdom that you are now reclaiming, regaining. Dragons don't look that way in their own reality as the interdimensional beings that they are, but that's how they are experienced and perceived in your physical linear space-time reality, because they are so powerful, so big. It's the idea of the serpent that contains knowledge, but magnified 1,000 times. It's presenting itself as the collective, as the archetypal representation of the power and access you have to ancient knowledge and ancient wisdom that you can reclaim in your present life. It's the idea that gets you fired up that allows you to follow your passions and act on them fully, to follow the path of the dragon without fear, to reclaim your true soul's power. That's the symbol that it represents. Remember, it's connected also to your DNA. So it also represents higher connections to energetic forms that in non-physical template level realities have to do with the way DNA is formed in physical reality. And it is the idea of allowing yourself to begin to build a third strand of DNA and open up all the dormant markers within you that you now consider to be junk DNA that you think doesn't do anything. But it does, and it will, as you open up all these markers. The third strand will build within humanity as you evolve. Many people have thought 12 strands will exist, but that is not possible for you physically and remaining as a human. There are beings throughout the galaxy, throughout the universe, that have more strands of DNA than you do. But humanity will evolve a third strand, eventually, as you become the sixth hybrid race. But the idea of connecting to 12 strands is something you connect to energetically in the spirit realm, in the template realm. It doesn't physicalize. That's something that goes beyond the human being. But it is something that you can connect to energetically as a spirit.
Thank you. This question is about Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
What is buried inside the mesa on Skinwalker Ranch?
It is an ancient alien craft that crashed on your planet and has been buried over time by erosion and the natural evolution of your planet. They will eventually discover this. Give them a couple of years.
What causes the GPS anomalies and interrupted laser beams during the scientists' experiments?
A combination of the vibrations that are still active within the ship and also the portals that exist in the area that can cause many disruptions in electronic equipment and so on and so forth. They are getting closer to understanding that the portals truly exist there. They are creating demonstrations and evidence of their existence. But sometimes it's a combination of the vibrations that are emanating from the crashed ship itself, because some of the systems in the ship are still very active. They last a long, long time. They never go out. They can last millions and millions of years. So sometimes it's an interference pattern, a combination of what's being emanated from the crashed ship and also the vibrations that are coming from the portals as ships move through them, which can create a cascade effect of different kinds of energies and vibrational frequencies to radiate from the portals as well as various ships move through them. So they'll discover all this. Give them some more time.
What group of aliens is the ship representative of?
We are not allowed to talk about the ancient ones yet.
Okay. And is that why they're having trouble drilling in through the ground there?
Well, yes, they keep running into the debris from the crashed ship that does not allow their devices to drill through them. The substance that the ship...
Can you explain briefly the evolution of humanity in a way that a 7-year-old would understand? This person's son has been asking him this question, or her, and I don't know how to explain it because I'm confused myself.
Well, it's sort of like being in school and graduating from one level to another. Going from first grade to second grade to third grade to fourth grade. You learn new things. You grow in your understanding. You learn new lessons. And it gives you more experience and more ability to do more things. So the evolution of humanity is like that. Earth is like a school. And humanity can graduate from one level to another depending upon the kind of experiences that you face as challenges and how you learn to transform them or overcome them. So a school structure is a good analogy for a child to understand. Humanity is evolving by learning more every time they graduate to a new level of class, to a new grade, so to speak. Hopefully that will help you.
Okay, and this question, why has our true history been hidden? This person is referring to the fact that we were created by the Anunnaki. I assume it has to do with politics and power, but I just don't really understand what's going on. Why do we choose to forget or deny where we came from? Why is the ET story so taboo in the mainstream?
All right, well, you're actually asking two different questions. One about the idea of the contemporary modern situation of suppression of information, of whatever information may be known, for the retention of power and so on and so forth. But you're asking, why have you forgotten about the idea of the Anunnaki? Well, there aren't many records left that exist because of disasters on your planet. A lot of civilizations and a lot of records of ancient times have been wiped out by volcanic action, by earthquakes, by meteoric impact. Many civilizations have simply been wiped off the face of the earth in that way, and the records that talked about all these things along with them. So some of the forgetfulness is simply because there's nothing to be found anymore, or some things are very difficult for you to find or take a long time for you to realize and remember in a variety of different ways, because the destruction in the past has been so complete. So because of the natural forgetfulness that goes with the earth cycles, of forgetting who you are so that you can live your life spontaneously and discover who you are again from a new point of view, that natural forgetfulness that goes along with incarnating on the earth plane then also doesn't necessarily give you much ability all the time to remember that these ancient civilizations existed or that these ancient things happened, because there's really not much left of the records of these things. Now, again, some of them exist here and there, and some of them can still be found. But a lot of what you're remembering is coming through the idea of new souls bringing the information with them when they incarnate on your planet, and intuitively simply knowing that these things happen, and the intuition leading them to where sometimes they can find some of the ancient records that do still survive. Plus the idea of out-of-body travel and a tapping into the Akashic records, which contains all the information, because again, no information is really lost. It's all woven into the structure and the fabric of space-time and the existence itself, and can always be tapped into, and sometimes the information you have is being retrieved that way. But physically speaking, there isn't a lot of information that survives when something like a meteor slams into your planet and destroys a culture. So it's all of that.
Okay, thank you. Can you share with us a little bit about the moon and its relationship to Earth and any entities that inhabit it?
The moon is a natural body that was split off from the Earth due to an actual impact in the early solar system of another body that struck the Earth, and material broke off and became the moon. So it's a natural body in that sense. However, the natural body has been engineered by extraterrestrials in a variety of ways, placed into its present orbit, and there are many extraterrestrial bases that exist on the moon, if that's what you're referring to as inhabitants. There are no natural inhabitants in that sense on the moon. But there are many ET bases and underground bases that are inhabited by extraterrestrials who come and go for a variety of reasons. So, the idea is that energetically in its orbit, the moon balances the Earth in a variety of ways, represents certain vibrational frequencies and energies that have to do with feminine energy and the balancing of feminine energy. Some time ago, we talked about the idea that the Earth would capture an asteroid and it would be somewhat representative of the male energy, and that you would have two moons. Well, if you actually look it up, you will realize that that has actually now happened. There is an asteroid that is in orbit around the Earth, in a sense, as a second very small moon. And that represents the idea now of coming into the balance between masculine and feminine energy, of getting into the idea of the balance of your emotionality and your logic systems. So, look it up, you will see that there is already a second moon around the Earth in the form of a small asteroid.
Okay. And can you please provide insider ways that we can have better discernment? This person is saying, I often find myself contemplating if the messages are coming from my higher self or the ego. Sometimes it's very obvious, but other times I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but in hindsight, it turned out to be a negative belief.
All right, but you can learn from that. Again, the idea is your willingness to learn from recognizing that you may have gone in a direction you didn't prefer is what allows you to gain more ability to recognize the difference between that energy and the one you do prefer. Following the formula helps because acting on your passion raises your frequency and makes you a more sensitive antenna, a more sensitive receiver to higher frequency energy, so that when you get used to perceiving those energies, you can more easily tell the difference between energies that are you and energies that are not. But the willingness to learn from whatever path you went down that wasn't what you prefer is also what will increase your ability to tell the difference between that energy and the energy of the path you do prefer. So if your willingness is there to learn from that, to recognize the difference, you'll get better at it. Stop worrying about it, and you will become more sensitive to what the difference in those things are. The more you worry about it, the less sensitive you will be, because you're increasing the idea of the negative path, of the negative energy, and becoming more sensitive to that. So, but only in the sense that you keep doing that. So you have to not worry about it, just stay in a positive state, which is one of the steps in the formula, and learn a lesson from it, and you'll be able to eventually tell the difference. Don't worry about it. Lighten up on yourself. Don't take it so seriously.
And this question is about the formula. This person wants to know if someone hasn't been following the formula for a while or has gotten themselves into misalignment, is the formula able to guide them out of that and get them back on the right track, so to speak? Or is there something else they need to do in that situation before the formula can work properly?
Well, they have to be willing to allow themselves to use the formula as fully as they possibly can. The formula is self-expanding, self-guiding, self-correcting. So the idea is all they have to do is go back to understanding as precisely as possible, as clearly as possible, what each step of the formula actually means, so they can know that they are doing it as fully as possible, as purely as possible, as clearly as possible. And then, yes, it will guide you back through synchronicity, because that's part of the effects of the formula, is that synchronicity becomes the guiding, organizing principle. So yes, the short answer is yes, it's self-correcting and self-guiding when you understand what each component actually means and use it